And how great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all will see how great is our God. Oh, how great is our God. Sing with me, is our God, and all will see how great is our God. Oh, you're the name above all names, and you're worthy, and my heart will sing, is our God. Oh, say how great is our God. Sing with me, is our God. Oh, we'll see it. How great is our God. Oh, how great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. Oh, we'll sing, how great is our God. And your name is above all names. You're worthy of all praise. Say, mighty are the works of your hands. Oh, mighty are the works of your hands. Hey, your name is above all names. And you're worthy of all praise. Say, mighty are the works of your hands. Oh, say, mighty are the works of your hands. Oh, and you're mighty, you're mighty, you're mighty, you're mighty, and you're holy, you're holy, you're holy, you're holy, and you're awesome, you're awesome, you're awesome, you're awesome, and you're mighty, you're mighty, you're mighty, you're mighty, and your name is above all names. It's okay for you to put your hands together this morning. You're worthy of all praise. Mighty are the works of your hand. Oh, God, mighty are the works of your hand. And your name is above all names. You're worthy of all praise. Say, mighty are the works of your hands. Oh, God, mighty are the works of your hands. And how great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all will see how great is our God. Is our God. Is our God. All will see how great is our God.
Amen and good morning, friends. It's good to be with you this morning as we gather in the legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. As we inherit his legacy, this pastor, this civil rights advocate, this community organizer, let us begin together, as Dr. King would often begin gatherings, invoking God's presence through prayer. God of the sunrise, each new day is a gift from you. We give you thanks for this new era that is inaugurated through the witness of your prophet, Martin Luther King Jr. Empower us to act in his legacy, bringing liberation to all people, acknowledging dignity in all people, promoting flourishing for all people. Today, we give you special thanks for Zelia Mani and his work as an educator, as an organizer. Open us today to receive his wisdom. Inspire us through this witness to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly in your purpose. Send your Spirit now upon this gathering, that we might be united in divine wisdom, in divine purpose, and in divine abundance of life that you intend for all. And all the people said, Amen.
Thank you, Drew. Good morning. Welcome. I'm Dave Kaufman, President of Capital University, and it's my honor to welcome you to the 32nd Annual Day of Learning, a celebration of the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We celebrate today as a new day for all of us. Today, less than 3 months from the 55th anniversary of his death, Dr. King's legacy continues to speak ever so powerfully to all of us. Capital's Day of Learning is a tangible representation of this university's long commitment to inclusion, respect, critical dialogue, justice, hope, and humanity. It allows us to challenge societies and our own prejudices and inequalities, regardless of how uncomfortable that may be. This is a new day for all of us. It reminds us of the importance of reflection, soul-searching, and action. And it helps us to embrace the historical and contemporary significance of the purpose-driven life of Dr. King. As a university, a community, and a society, we have much to do to fulfill his dream. While his contributions are undeniable, we continue to live in a society where racial prejudice and inequality endure. With continued social injustice and bias against people of different sexual orientations, races, genders, and faiths, understanding the dream of Dr. King is more important than ever. Preaching a sermon in 1968 at his home church, Ebenezer Baptist in Atlanta, Dr. King said, "Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb degree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love." Service is one of the critical components of the Lutheran heritage upon which Capital was founded nearly 193 years ago. Our desire to serve is grounded not only in a commitment to ethical stewardship, but also in our fundamental moral drive to meet the needs of our neighbor. In 1992, this Day of Learning was established to demonstrate solidarity, power, courage, and the desire to simply do what's right. Today, we come together, the Capital family and our Central Ohio neighbors, as one community inspired by the promise of hope that we can all make a difference. Today's event is an opportunity to reflect on the work that Dr. King started and to take responsibility for the work we still have to do. A lot of what Dr. King advocated during his lifetime, racial justice, economic equality, affordable housing, and labor rights, are issues we're still trying to figure out in 2023. Make no mistake, we have clearly made progress, but it's a journey of discovering new ways to build and new barriers to tear down. As we reflect on the legacy of Dr. King, let us honor him by asking ourselves if we're doing all we can to amplify hope and promise in our world. Are we doing all we can to build a culture of respect for all people? We are honored to have a community organizer, activist, and educator, Zelia Mani, as today's keynote speaker. I hope our nation can embrace the peaceful, nonviolent tools that visionaries like Dr. King and Zelia Mani have leveraged to advance a more compassionate and inclusive society. I also want to recognize and thank Ralph Cochran, Capital's Executive Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and Michaela Carter, Associate Director of Diversity and Inclusion, and the many students, faculty, staff, and community collaborators who've joined together to make today such a powerful experience for all of us. Like Dr. King, Capital University seeks to transform lives. It's a shared mission that starts with ourselves and then spreads to our campus and our communities. It's a special privilege to come together as we explore critical, collaborative thought and action that makes that happen. May it never stop. Thank you for joining us at the celebration of Dr. King's legacy of service. It is a new day for all of us. May this event leave our hearts full of grace and our souls bound together by love. Thank you, and welcome to Capital University.
I'm Jody Fournier, and I'm honored to serve as Capital University's Provost. Welcome to Capital University's annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Learning. By commemorating the life and legacy of Dr. King through intentional learning and community engagement, our entire community is strengthened and our respect for human dignity is reinforced. In 1964, the Nobel Peace Prize was given to Martin Luther King Jr., who was the second Black American to win the award. He was, said Chairman Yan of the Nobel Committee, the first person in the Western world to have shown us that a struggle can be waged without violence. He is the first to make the message of brotherly love a reality in the course of the struggle, and he has brought this message to all men, to all nations and races. For more than 3 decades, our community has gathered on this day to celebrate the legacy of this great leader and to wrestle with the uncomfortable truths we discover when we measure ourselves against the ideals he and other champions for social justice espoused. Our Day of Learning was born out of a shared desire of those in our learning community to achieve greater understanding of complex and relevant social issues through study, candid conversation in a safe environment, self-reflection, and earnest consideration of all perspectives. According to Professor Emeritus Jim Burke in his historical account of the university, Chronicle of Change, Capital University, 1950 to 2000, Capital University formally started a program to celebrate the achievements of Dr. King in 1984 with a nationally recognized speaker who addressed the campus community. In 1988, the Reverend Dr. James Farmer, former program director of the NAACP, who helped establish the Congress of Racial Equality, spoke about his association with Dr. King during the formative years of the Civil Rights Movement. In 1989, Father George Clements, the pastor of Holy Angels Church in Chicago and the founder of the Black Catholic Clergy Caucus, was the speaker at the convocation. While the convocation services to honor Dr. King were inspirational and significant, some believed the entire day should be reserved to celebrate his life and teachings. In 1991, the Ebony Brotherhood Association, Capital University, presented a proposal to the undergraduate student government to observe the birthday of MLK, and I'm quoting, through a free day at Capital University for for celebrating and remembering King and his contributions. The student government passed the resolution and sent it on to the President's Cabinet. The President's Cabinet also supported the resolution, and the Board of Trustees adopted this concept. Administrators initially feared the Day of Learning would be a 3-day weekend in the eyes of students. President Blackmore proposed these events be held on a Wednesday, but David Murray, a 2004 graduate, at that time president of EBA, insisted that the Day of Learning be held on the actual holiday. Our students did not want a day off to honor the legacy of Dr. King. They wanted a day on. Our community is enriched by the exchange of ideas that will take place today. We draw from the expertise of our distinguished faculty and staff. We also embrace Central Ohio's rich network of community and civic organizations. We show our students they do not have to travel across the country to engage in service. They can make a difference right here in our own neighborhoods. On our campus today, people from different parts of town, different parts of the world, with different sized bank accounts, different levels of education, with different biases, different levels of expertise, with experience and inexperience, will connect with each other for the same reason: to understand issues in context, to overcome ignorance, broaden their perspectives, challenge their beliefs, and pursue common ground in mutual respect in the interest of creating a future that is more peaceful and accepting than our past. I strongly encourage each of you to take part in as many events as possible. And to those of you who are on our campus for the first time today, please come back soon. Capital extends its hand to the community by hosting hundreds of public events throughout the year that enhance the intellectual, cultural, and artistic life of this community and make it a better place to live. I invite you to take advantage of all of them. We are grateful to the students, staff, and faculty whose planning and participation made this day possible. I trust that you will find today's Day of Learning meaningful as we continue on the journey together. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Linda Hassler, and I'm the Director of Choral Activities here, and I would just like to give you a little bit of introduction to the two pieces that the choir is going to sing this morning. The first of the two is titled, "I Will Make a Way" by composer Tom Trenny. The text comes from the Bible's book of Isaiah, and the opening line is, "Behold, I will do a new thing." I know. Who knew that when I picked this piece in August, I had no idea what the theme was going to be today. But as is so often the case, a higher power is at work, and it's our role to just make ourselves available to it. You will hear the two lines continually coming back. Everything has passed away. Everything has become new. And the second of the two pieces is a gospel setting of "His Eye is on the Sparrow," adapted by Rolla Dilworth. This piece also gives you an opportunity to be more than a passive listener, but to join in and sing. Near the end of the piece, there's a section where the choir is going to sing solo lines and ask you to sing them back. The parts are soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. And you have to choose one. You are one of those voice parts, I'm telling you right now, okay? And so the sopranos will sing the line, and the sopranos in the audience will sing it back, and then the altos will sing the line, and so forth. Just so we know which voice part you are. Who are my sopranos out there? Raise your hands. Yes, on up high. Now I know some of you are going to become sopranos because you won't be able to resist when you hear it. How about the altos? Excellent. Tenors? Great. And basses? Is it the whole sports team here? Is that what we've got? Okay. And By the way, we know who you are, so you are not exempt. And I will be looking for you and listening for you. So, it's our joy every year to sing at this opening convocation. I Will Make a Way by Tom Trenny, and I Sing Because I'm Happy by Rolla Dilworth.
Oh
one Capital University senior who is in good academic standing and exemplifies leadership, both on and off campus, through the following characteristics: service, authenticity, courage, and excellence to honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. This year's recipient is Raheem Forbes, a senior history integrated social studies major and future educator. Raheem's activism and role as an advocate began long before he was a Capital student and has continued during his time as a student here. Raheem currently serves as the president of Ebony Brotherhood Association. Not only has he led programming initiatives for his organization, he's also planned educational and social programs, working with a variety of other students and student organizations. Raheem, along with other excellent executive board team members, led EBA through the pandemic to maintain, grow, and develop as a student organization.
Raheem's nominator said, "Raheem's peers and our faculty and staff alike respect him because of his quiet, thoughtful leadership style. If someone is in need, Raheem does what he can to help. He treats others with respect and compassion, even when it is hard for his peers to do the same. More than once during his time at Capital, Raheem has participated in programs and discussions regarding issues of social justice aimed to educate and support fellow students. He serves as a thoughtful listener and a reflective guide through sometimes heated conversations. Raheem sees a greater good and the possibility for positive change, because of this, can help draw parallels and understand one another. Now, as someone who knows Raheem personally, not only is all of this true, but it's probably an understatement to his thoughtful, sincere service style of leadership and friendship. In his application, Raheem said, "I would hope to leave Capital knowing that I tried my hardest to make not only my experience the best it can be, but to give the people around me the best experience that I could give them. This is one of the main reasons why I try to never be in a bad mood, because if I know that I can make another person's day better, then I'm going to try my hardest to do so. My legacy that would be left would be of love and trust. I would want people to remember me as someone who always had a smile on my face and was a friend to anyone and everyone at all times."
Raheem, as your peers, we can affirm your legacy will be long-lasting. Please join us in congratulating Raheem Forbes, the recipient of the 2023 Martin Luther King Jr. Spirit Award.
As you all know, I am Raheem Forbes. I'm the current president of Ebony Brotherhood Association, and my pronouns are he, him, his.
And I'm Morgan Davies, and I currently serve as the vice president of Ebony Brotherhood Association. And we have the great honor of introducing our Gay S. Steele keynote address. The keynote address is made in honor of Gay S. Steele, who served as Capital's Director of Multicultural Affairs for 21 years. Steele was the primary force behind Capital's annual celebration of the King holiday. By bestowing such an honor and naming the address after Steele, her programmatic vision and legacy will continue for many years to come.
This year, we're so fortunate to have Zelly Imani bring forth our keynote address. Zelly Imani is a community organizer and educator. He has served in diverse heavyweight settings as an English and math teacher and curriculum developer. Most recently, Zelly has been organizing against anti-Black state violence with Black Lives Matter Patterson. Founded in 2016, Black Lives Matter Patterson is a Black youth-led organization dedicated to transforming the city of Patterson to ensure safety and justice for all Black people. Black Lives Matter Foundation Incorporated is a global organization whose mission is to eradicate white supremacy and build local power to intervene in violence inflicted on Black communities by state and vigilantes. By combating and counteracting acts of violence, creating space for Black imagination and innovation, and centering Black joy, this organization is winning immediate improvements in the lives of all Black communities. He is also a co-founder of the Black Liberation Collective, a collective consisting of Black students who are dedicated to transforming institutions of higher education through unity, coalition building, direct action, and political education that has initiated the hashtag Student Blackout movement across campuses in the United States. Please join us in extending a very warm welcome to Zelimani.
Good morning, everybody. I'm genuinely happy to be here today. I was confused at one point. Is it Sunday service or is it Monday right now? And when the young lady was asking us who's the altos and sopranos, I did not raise my hand. You do not want to hear me sing. You may stage a protest. But I want to thank you for having me today. And how are the children? And how are the children? That is a greeting by the Maasai Tribe warriors. It's meant to connote that the strength of a community is determined by the well-being of its children. And the response to that will be, the children are fine. So when I ask you right now, how are the children? Please reply back, the children are fine. How are the children? Greetings, everyone. I'm honored to be here today, sharing space with you, educators, caretakers, and learners. Your invitation to speak to this community is a testament to your commitment to creating inclusive, diverse, safe, and just spaces. I thank you for your hospitality, and I'm really thankful that it did not snow this weekend. So to begin, I want you all to plant your feet firmly on the ground. Take a moment to feel your feet on the ground and experience that connection with your body and the earth. And as your feet are firmly on the ground, I want you to take a deep inhale in through your nose. Hold it there and exhale slowly, feeling the tension in your body release as you exhale. Take another moment to inhale again, filling your air, filling your lungs with fresh air, and filling your lungs with positivity. Hold it there for a second and exhale, releasing the tension in your body and releasing all the negativity that's stored in your body. And as you continue to inhale and exhale, I want you to take note of your surroundings. Take a look around the room right now and at the people that share space with you. I want you right now to feel connected to this community, feel connected to each other, feel connected to your body, and feel connected to the earth. Be present in this moment, feeling calm, feeling honored, feeling centered, and feeling grounded. I want you to feel grounded on your purpose here today, on the birthday of Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King. I also want you to feel grounded in your purpose in life, because we all have a purpose, whether we believe it or not, or whether we know it or not. And as your feet are on the ground, I want you to recognize that this ground that your feet is on may not belong to you. So I would like to acknowledge that this land that we are currently gathered on today is the traditional territory of the Miami, Shawnee, and other indigenous nations. We recognize the stewardship of this land throughout history and honor their ongoing connection to it. And we also acknowledge that this land was taken through white supremacist violence and the displacement of indigenous people. And I want you to repeat after me the Yoruba word for affirmation, Ashe. one more time, Ashe. Thank you. So the Black Lives Matter movement, which emerged in the wake of the murder of Trayvon Martin in 2012, continues the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement. Like King, the Black Lives Matter movement is rooted in a deep commitment to racial justice and equity, and is driven by a powerful sense of moral purpose and a deep sense of urgency. The movement has sparked a renewed sense and a renewed national conversation on the ongoing challenges being faced by Black people, not only here in this country, but all over the world. And has helped to popularize having a critical lens in which to view not only the police, but all the different systems that are oppressing people all around the world. In the years leading up to the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, he was less popular than ever. A 1966 Gallup poll found that almost 2/3 of Americans had an unfavorable opinion about Dr. King. 2/3 had an unfavorable opinion about him. Not a favorable one, but an unfavorable one. And we see something happening in this moment where many Americans are starting to have an unfavorable opinion about the Black Lives Matter movement. So we right now are at a crossroads, but this is a very exciting time. Don't feel disappointed, don't feel discouraged, don't feel sad, don't feel hopeless, feel excited. Because we live in a time where we can actually change the world, not only for ourselves, but our future generations. But in order to do that, there's 3 big things that we have to accomplish. And again, don't feel too discouraged about that number, but it's 3 big things that we have to accomplish. And I want you to feel excited about this. The 3 evils that Dr. King identified were poverty, racism, and militarism. And he believed that these issues were so interconnected that addressing one will ultimately lead to having to address all the other 2 as well. He called to create a movement to address these issues in order to create a more just and equitable society. Equitable and equity. We've been hearing that term a lot lately. Raise your hand in the room, have you ever heard the term equity? Yeah, a lot of you have heard that term equity. And some people are confused with that term, equity, and I really want to try to explain it. See, equity isn't simply about providing equal access or opportunities for all. It's actively working to dismantle systems of oppression and redistribute resources in a way that acknowledges and rectifies past harm and current imbalances that exist. So I want you to imagine a house full of plants, just a house. Plants in every room. And obviously some of these rooms have windows and some of these rooms don't have windows. Imagine this house where every plant is given the right amount of water, the right amount of sunlight, and the right amount of nutrients to grow and flourish. It's not about giving every plant the same amount of water, or the same amount of sunlight, or the same amount of nutrients. It's about giving the plant, each unique plant, the right amount of resources to allow them to thrive. Now again, think about that rooms and all those rooms of different plants. And think about you giving that one plant or all these plants the same amount of water. What do you think will happen if you give the plants the same amount of water? Anybody? You can say it out loud. Some of them will die, right? Some of them will die if you give them too much water. So when we think about this, it's not unjust if you're giving some plants more water or more nutrients or more sunlight. And by giving something more resources doesn't mean that you care for something anymore. It means you're giving care, the proper care to each plant. And as we continue to remove these barriers that exist, think about that analogy. Because everybody deserves access to resources, care, and support that will allow them to not just survive, but to thrive. I met a man a few years ago in the streets of Patterson, New Jersey, where I live. And he was obviously homeless. And many of us see homeless people in our communities and always want to know their stories. How did they end up in this situation? And I asked them, what led you to your current predicament? And he said, his house caught on fire. His house caught on fire. So when his house caught on fire, he had no place to live. He lost all his possessions, all his clothes, all his things. And he started to live in a men's shelter. He started to live in a men's shelter, and he would go to work disheveled. He would go to work sometimes with unclean clothes because he didn't have the chance to, always wash his clothes. And he was fired. He was fired because of how he looked and how he was presenting himself at work. So not only did this man lose his home, now he lost his job as well. And because of all those pressures on him, someone offered him drugs. And he began to use drugs. And then with that, this downward spiral occurred. But imagine if we had real safety nets for people. Imagine if we had systems that provided care and support for individuals and be able to embrace people in these moments where they desperately needed them and not ignore them. Or just ignore them when we see them in the streets or arrest them and put them somewhere in jail, but actually give them the resources that they need in order to survive. Dr. King said that there's nothing new about poverty. What is new is that we have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty. We can get rid of poverty if we only try. In his speech, Remaining Awake Through a Great Revolution, King notes a triple revolution taking place in our society. The technological revolution created a new prospect for material abundance for all to enjoy, but only a few do. At the threshold of a post-scarcity society, economic justice is simply not more people having access to resources, but all people having access to resources. No one should be homeless. And I'll repeat that again. No one should be homeless. No one should be without food. Capitalism prevents this, not capabilities. There are more homeless people in America than there are abandoned houses. Imagine that. Imagine when you walk around downtown Columbus and you see abandoned buildings or empty storefronts and you see homeless people. How can we have a society that has empty housing and people out on the streets? What separates the homeless from shelter is not a lack of property, but the lack of love, the lack of caring for someone, prioritizing property over people. What separates the poor from having food on their stoves and food on the shelves is not that there is no food, right? You go to grocery stores, there's food on the shelves, so our country has enough food. What separates people is the fact that they cannot afford this food. And that should not be. If we have the food, people should be able to be fed. In order to bring homes to the homeless and food to the hungry, we need to be able to dismantle these systems that prevent them from having these systems. One of my friends, Tyrone, he shares a story. And I'll be honest about Tyrone, right? He was in and out of the streets for a long time in the city, involved in different gangs, in and out of prison, in and out of jail, and he wanted to change his life, that like many of us do. So he went to a huge job fair where a company was hiring pretty much on the spot. So him and his friends went to this job fair for this company, and they're in there filling out the application. Everything's going good. He's really feeling really hopeful about this job. He's filling out the application, and he gets that one question. Have you ever been convicted of a crime? what should he do? What should he do? And he's always been told that you have to be honest. You have to be honest, because if your employer finds out that you were convicted of a crime, you're going to get fired on the spot. And he figured, hey, if I'm honest, maybe I can get the job. So you know what? He just filled out, yep, I was convicted of a crime. His homeboy killer was like, man, let them find out on their own, right? Let them find out on their own. I'm going to put I was never convicted of a crime, even though he was. So everything was going good with this seminar and this presentation, and he started calling some of the gentlemen's names, like, all right, you over here, Mr. Tyrone, come this way. And he's thinking, I bet, like, we in there, we in there, like, I got this thing. So they're walking down this hallway, and he's like, everything started to feel really familiar as I walked down this hallway. And then it dawned on him that this is the same way that he came into the building. And they led him and the others to the door and said, thank you, gentlemen, for your time, and good luck. Good luck. And all the men were like dumbfounded outside and still started like talk to one another, like, hey, like, what did you put on your application? And he was like, oh, I checked, convicted of a crime. I checked convicted of a crime. And everyone who checked that on their check marks was outside. Was outside. So when Dr. King talks about racism, I want you to think about that story. Because too often when we think about racism, we think about someone saying the N-word. We think about nooses. We think about someone going to a party with blackface. And we don't think about the small structural things that occur every single day that are preventing people, specifically black people, from moving up in life. Anti-black racism is woven into the very fabric of our society. It's an interlocking paradigm of institutions, behaviors, practices that work to dehumanize black people in order to benefit non-black people, specifically white people. Racism exists even when viral content doesn't. Racism exists even when viral content doesn't. And it shouldn't take a video of a dead black man or a dead black woman for you to realize that racism exists in this country. It shouldn't take a viral video of college students wearing blackface at a college party for you to realize there's racism in this country. It's existing, has always existed, and it's up to us to have this critical lens about how to examine it. And it's part of the structure called the 4 eyes of oppression. By show of hands, how many of you have ever heard of the 4 eyes of oppression? No? Great, because you're about to learn right now. Okay, so the 4 eyes of oppression. And it's not like the eyes of your face, the letter I. And it's sometimes called the 4 pillars of oppression. It stands for institutional, interpersonal, internalized, and ideological. Now, institutional oppression refers to ways in which society, systems, and structures create and maintain inequality. Interpersonal oppression is the discrimination and mistreatment that individuals experience from other individuals. Internalized oppression is when individuals internalize these negative beliefs and attitudes. And ideological oppression refers to ways in which society's ideologies, beliefs, justifies and helps to maintain that oppression. These separate categories overlap and intersect and feed off of one another. And they feed off one another. Remember, I said the 3 evils that Dr. King raised were racism, poverty, and militarism. Militarism. Raise your hand if you identify as indigenous to Ohio. Raise your hand if you identify as one of the tribes that's indigenous to Ohio. Yeah, take a look around the room and see how many hands are raised up. So when we think about militarism, think about that. Because we all should be against militarism. The displacement of indigenous people is not just a past event, is an ongoing event. Because if it's not an ongoing event, the room, hands will be filled up. And I have some ideas about how we can address these things, but first I want to tell you a little bit about myself, because I'm not sure you know too much about me. My name is Zeli Amani. I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm an activist. And in August 2014, I found myself in Ferguson, Missouri, in the middle of a street, surrounded by people who I did not know, with police and riot gear standing in front of me, tanks with sniper guns, with the red dots pointing at our chest. And I remember vividly these police and riot gear standing in line formation, and they had helmets on, and they had their gear on, they had their batons, and they had their shields. And they would beat on the shields with the batons. Boom! 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 And all of us, hundreds of us, were in the streets with our hands up towards the heavens. Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! But we wasn't just standing there. We was marching towards the police. Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Kept marching and marching until we was face to face with these police officers. Face to face. And I remember looking at some of their faces, and some of them were crying because they did not want to be there. They did not want to be there at that moment, especially on that side. They wanted to join us on the other side, but they couldn't because they had to do their job. They had to do their job. So they stood there, and we stood there. Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! And they stood there with the batons. Boom! 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 And a group of clergy started to get worried that something was going to happen, because they saw a group of young black men being really, really angry, really, really anxious. And this group of young black men, they were shirtless, right? And the reason why they were shirtless is because they had their shirts wrapped around their faces. And the reason why it was wrapped around their faces was because last night they got tear gas. The night before that, they got tear gas. And he was pretty sure that they was going to get tear gas today. And the only way to protect their faces, only way to protect their lungs and their insides was this scarf. That was the only protection that they had. They didn't have gas masks like the police did. They did not have armor like the police did. They did not have guns or weapons. The only things that we had was our black skins, our dignity, and our cell phones. Those are the only things that we had on us. But the police were so scared of us. They were so scared of us. In the community, they were scared about what was going to happen. And the clergy was scared. And they tried to separate us. And he told one of these young men, and I'll never forget this, they looked at one of the young men, and they said, brothers, please go home so you don't get killed. Please go home so you don't get killed. And one of them looked to them and said, don't tell us to go home so we don't get killed, because they're killing us anyway. They're killing us anyway. And that was so true. Why go home to avoid being killed when they're killing us anyway? So those young men had to take a stand. They had to take a stand and risk their lives in order to save a life. To risk a life in order to save a life. And I know many of you participated in many rallies or protests, especially during COVID-19. And think about that. Think about your courageousness to be able to protest the racial pandemic in the midst of a viral pandemic. That you was outside willing to risk your life in order to save a life. To risk your life in order to save a life. And some of us think that's big. That's too big. Think about things that you can do small. You don't have to change the world through big actions. But if enough of us take small actions, that's something big. That's something big. And one of the things that I did during COVID-19 was, like here probably, they told you to stay indoors, right? They told you to stay indoors in the beginning, don't go outside because it's not safe. Stay inside. And that made good sense. Stay inside. I won't catch the virus that way. But in a day or two, I started to realize that, okay, I'm fortunate enough to stay inside. They told the older people in our cities and our communities to stay inside, the most vulnerable to this virus. But if our seniors and our elders can't go outside, how are they going to get their groceries? How are they going to get their necessities? How are they going to get the things that they need to survive? So we did what starts something called a mutual aid group, where we was able to gather volunteers, gather money, pool resources in order to start delivering food to our seniors and delivering food to people who need it. And I never forget me calling my great aunt, who was a senior, and asking her in her building, like, hey, we want to deliver some food to some of the people in your building. Can you get some names down and we'll deliver it? And I was expecting this lady to give me like 3 names of her friends. She gave me a list of like 20 people in her building. 20 people in her building that would like to get free meals. And we gave 20 free meals. Then the next day, word started to spread. Like, hey, can we get added to that list? I have, that I really want, to get food and get checked on. That list started to grow and it grow and it grow. Until we was delivering 200 meals a day to the city of Patterson, to the seniors, to people who were disabled, people who were older. I remember one lady who I delivered to was blind, and she was so thankful. She said, I wish I could see you. I wish I could see you. And other people who we delivered to said, I wish we could hug you right now, but we can't. Do something small, and it's still something big. But here's some other solutions that I really want you to think about, especially when it comes to poverty. You can take small steps to end poverty through mutual aid by organizing or joining mutual aid groups. Do things like that. Don't wait to service on Dr. Martin Luther King Day, but participate in service all the time. Mutual aid operates on this idea that we all have something to give and we all have something that we need. You have something to give. It may not be money because you're broke college students, right? It may not be money, but it'll be other resources that you have. Knowledge, skills, something that you can do. Think about during the pandemic again. If you was out shopping, you could pick something up for somebody. Because there's going to be times or moments again where something bad is going to happen in our communities, whether it's a big blizzard, and if you can take care of your neighbor, that's something big. With racism, think about joining anti-racist groups and learning about the history of racism and how it's impacted people of color, not only just here in Columbus, not just only here in Ohio or in the United States, but all across the world. And again, with militarism, think about this land and think about how much wars are not benefiting all of us. That on the other side of that gun is another human being that deserves to live as well. Before I end, I want you to think about this story that I want to share. There was a couple that was having a small picnic by a river. This is just a parable. So they was having a picnic by a river. They was having a nice time. He had his little blanket out and his wine and his snacks all ready for this date. And as he's getting cuddled up with his boo, they heard like a faint crying. Like a faint crying. And they're like, what's that? What's that sound? What's that sound? So they got off from the blanket and started to walk towards the river to try to find out what this sound was. And as they started to walk, they saw a baby in the river. And they're like, oh my gosh, there's a baby in the river. So they grabbed the baby out the river, ran back to their blanket, and started to dry it off. They started to dry it off. Is it dry? Let's calm it down. Do we have any food here? They try to give it some milk to try to calm it down. And as they're doing all of this, they hear another cry. They're like, I think I hear something else. So they ran back to the river, and there was another baby in the river. So they grabbed that baby too, ran back to where it was at, dried that baby off, tried to calm it down and give it milk, and then another cry. And as they went to the river and grabbed another baby, other people near the riverbank started to notice what was going on and started to help out as well, because more and more babies started coming down. And soon, they had different stations set up, right? So they had a station over here to dry the baby, they had another station over here to feed the baby, another station to get the babies calmed down and get into a new home. And they kept doing this, and they kept doing this. As I tell this story, what are some of your thoughts about this story? What's your first thought? Anybody? Where are the babies coming from? Right? Where are the babies coming from? And so often in this country, we are so concerned about, this person is homeless, let me give them a couple dollars, right? Or let me put them in a shelter. And not addressing the real issue about what is actually causing these problems. Let's not solve this issue by just getting the baby into a new home. Let's figure out where the babies are coming from. Where are the children are coming from? That is the issue that we're having right now. So again, when I ask you, how are the children? How do you reply? The children are fine. But as we know in this country, the children are not fine. But it's up to us to ensure that they are. And the way that we do this is not through violence. It's not through AK-47s or atomic bombs. It's through our capacity to love. Because the greatest weapon that we have as human beings are not guns and knives. The greatest weapon that we have is our capacity to love. And when we find it hard to love someone, we just have to love harder. Thank you.
That is Gregory J. Watkins and the Worship and Praise Chorale from right here in Columbus, Ohio. Can we give them another hand? They were our guests today. Jazz luncheon later on this afternoon. I hope you all will join us. At this time, if you would please stand as we sing together the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice. It is in your program. At the conclusion of the song, I'm going to ask that you please remain in your seats for some final observations. Till earth and heaven ring.
Thank you to Zelly Mani for sharing in this day with us and providing your insight. Thank you to all who have been a part of this convocation. And I want to also acknowledge that Gay Estill is here, so thank you for your presence. As we move forward into the rest of our day, I just wanted to highlight a few things as we go forward. There are multiple ways that you can engage and participate in today's festivities. Immediately after this portion, we will have our first sessions of workshops. Those will run from 11 to 12:30. These workshops will be taking place in various areas around campus, and you can find the descriptions and locations to the QR code in your programs and also on paper sheets that will be found in the lobby. There are a couple of adjustments to the workshops that are acknowledged on the paper copy, but in case the electronic version is not updated, Dr. McCurdy's virtual workshop will be in Rough Learning 103, and the morning session for Nick Jameson will be in here in Meese Hall, while the afternoon session will be in Blackmore 115. The morning sessions, again, will run from 11 to 12:30. Also starting at 11, we will have Kids Corner in the Student Union. There, we will have different activities for children aged 12 and under to engage with. Parents and guardians must stay with their children while they're at Kids Corner. As mentioned earlier, we also have our jazz luncheon where we will have our musical guest. It will be on the second floor of the Student Union in the main dining room. This luncheon is free to all who are registered. There will be live jazz, our guest choir, and this will run from 11:30 to 1:30. The last session of workshops will run from 2 to 3:30, and during the session you will have the chance to attend some of the options that you may have missed this morning. Please refer to your programs in the paper sheets for locations. In addition to what I've mentioned thus far, there will also be an exhibit hosted by the Schumacher Gallery from 12 to 4 p.m. You can find it on the 4th floor of the Blackmore Library, so if you have time, please check it out. If you have any questions or need assistance, please find a volunteer or committee member. They'll be wearing ribbons and they'll be able to assist you. And once again, I thank you all, and I encourage you to please enjoy the rest of your day, and I dismiss you on to your next activities. Thank you.